Hey everyone, I'm Jackswing, and today in this video I want to talk about, can PC parts get too cold? Which, let's be fair, is actually a rather interesting question because it's a yes and a no. Like, yes, PC parts can get too cold, but no, you're not likely to get them to that cold. Okay? So let's talk about the no first, and later in the video, keep watching, I'm going to talk about the yes. So the reason why no is because PC parts use electricity, and energy cannot be transferred or destroyed. That's what I was taught at school. And with that, that means that the energy, the electricity, the energy used to make your CPU run, your GPU run, and whatnot, that actually gets transformed into heat. Keyword, heat. Heat is, again, how I was taught it, the opposite of cold. So with that being said, you are highly unlikely, highly unlikely for the PC part to be too cold. And I want to really iterate this point of, you are not likely to have your PC too cold, because even with a custom cooled computer where you could have as many radiators as you want, have a good pump with good flow rates, and just normal distilled water or any premix, you're not going to get too cold. Even then, you will be at least above ambient so much. You might get close to being on ambient, but you'll be above ambient. Ambient being the temperature around you, the ambient temperature of the room, okay? Now, earlier I did say yes. It is possible to achieve too cold. You have to be aiming to achieve too cold. You can't go, you know what, I have a 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler and I am going to achieve too cold. It doesn't work like that. You would need, there are videos on it. Jay's 2 Cents has videos on it. Paul's Hardware have videos on it, where to achieve too cold, and this is a very loose term, too cold, and I'll tell you why later. But they had to have a custom loop, so they had soft line tubing, so it wasn't hard line, it was just soft and flexible, going from the GPUs into a radiator that was in an ice bucket or an air conditioning unit. No joke, you had to be aiming for that temperature. And as I've just said, too cold is a very loose term. Extreme overclockers will go sub-ambient because you can get more performance. You can push the voltage a bit higher. You can up the frequency because the cooling is so very much dealt with. And that really leads nicely into why it's such a loose term. I'm trying to get it all out, but you can have your CPU, you can have CPU and GPU at minus 100 degrees Celsius, and your computer will turn on, you'll be able to run benchmarks. Keep it at that temperature, you're not going to be able to play games, because you've got to constantly be pouring liquid nitrogen into the pots, the CPU pots and the GPU pots. But the one thing when you do get that cold is that you could have a cold boot bug, where basically you try and turn your machine on and it doesn't want to turn on. That's where too cold comes into play, I guess. You've reached a temperature where your SSD or your hard drive doesn't want to function, or the motherboard is cold enough where certain components don't want to function properly, and you are unable to boot. Which then you've got to stop, you've got to let things warm up and whatnot. Or you have trouble booting, there might be some errors and whatnot. I'll be honest, I've never done any form of extreme overclocking. I'm not an expert on the fact. I am just sharing when it comes to those temperatures what little knowledge I have. And hopefully that little bit of knowledge was awesome. I guess put it shortly, sure, PC components can get too cold, but you really have to be aiming to get them to those temperatures, and to get them to those temperatures, you're most likely going to be doing some form of extreme overclocking to do benchmarking to see how high you place on a leaderboard. In everyday usage, the odds of you getting to a temperature that is too cold is so very close to impossible that, well, I'm going to say with a 95% surety that you're not going to have a problem of your PC being too cold. You're more likely to have your PC being too hot. That's where the issue should be. That should be, especially if you're a gamer or a content creator, video editor, the issue should be not, is it running too cold? Because, well, that's good for you. The colder it is, the better the performance is. But is your machine running too hot? If you were to put in some more money into your machine, would you get more performance out of your CPU or your GPU? But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button down below as well as the like button. Helps me out. And hopefully you'll watch me on my next video. See ya.